or a good morning or good afternoon. This is Andrew Hahn here with Tradewithufos and the Nailing FX and crypto session tonight here or today here on FX Street. So again, thank you FX Street for having us on this Thursday, July the 29th. And we're going to be looking at the markets, how they're going, and some of the things affecting the markets here as the US markets open in about half an hour. And to kind of start things off, let us get into what's been going on. And we just had some numbers come out, GDP numbers. A little bit lower actually than expected. It's kind of in line with the previous month, or the previous quarter, I should say. So slightly higher, but a lot less than they were expecting there. So GDP, we'll take a look at the equities as they kind of open, but coming into the news coming up, and then in Friday we have also GDP for around the Eurozone, and then we also have some numbers coming out of China. That's more like on the weekend, but if we're looking in the following week, let's just jump to the following week. Just to get an idea of what's coming up and what we could potentially anticipate coming up in August, first week of August. Of course, we're going to have non-farms on the Friday. I've got ISM coming up on the Monday. So a lot of these numbers kind of indicating, I guess not too bad numbers really, given the circumstance. But I think the thing really probably gonna have to watch out for, of course, is interest rates. We already know that they're kind of been holding those kind of flat. But that's going to be the interesting thing, I guess, coming up. New Zealand dollars getting affected there, probably with their employment numbers, and of course Europe. So the pound having some potential news. Again, interest rates on Thursday, and then the all interesting non-farms on the Friday. So a lot of numbers coming out really next week. We're probably not going to see a lot of action going the next couple of days. I think we've seen quite a bit already. And so on that note, let's kind of jump into the charts here and kind of see what's been going on, right? So before I get to the pound, let's just start off with the dollar here. And actually, I want to go to this data set here. So the dollar has been moving lower, and so last time I was on for a couple of weeks back, we've been seeing prices had come up into this 93 level and start to roll over, right? So dollars kind of come off. We'll look at gold in a minute, but gold has been moving higher. All the equities have held up pretty well. But we see here, right, this movement to the downside. So potentially we could see, prices for dollar come trade down here, maybe over the next week until Friday, where non-farms could prompt some selling into non-farms and then move higher. And so that's something that we could potentially anticipate. And then on the crypto side, we've been seeing clearly the Bitcoin kind of move higher, and that could be overall. Just look at the bigger picture, really just some sort of pullback before, a continued move down lower. So that's your lower high. So I mean your lower low, potentially set in there, move higher, a lower high, and then a move lower is potentially what could be unfolding here. Meanwhile, equities have been pretty strong, right? So it's just kind of come down to this area here, and this high didn't hold, right? We put in some new highs here. So last time we were kind of looking at this sort of price action going on, which didn't occur. And so we can see prices are kind of heading up at this area up here. Right. And so are we going to see a little bit more of a move than what we saw here? As we get into out of those summer months, coming back down into September, October, as we kind of see what goes on with with COVID around the world, what's going on in China, Chinese markets, and so the summer sort of movement that we've been seeing here, which has actually been pretty strong, right? See some pretty strong movements here over these summer period, kind of drop and then back up again. It's going to be interesting to see how the market's now reacting to third quarter, right? And of course, as we've been seeing with gold, we saw it move down. It didn't break this area here. It was kind of just hovering around this area in this sort of range. Now we need to see some sort of break above this high here to see if we're going to get stronger moves into the gold towards that 1900 level, back up to that level. Otherwise, we could potentially just see this sort of continued range movement in price. So this is potentially what we could be seeing, and then if we talk about the other currencies, so Aussie, we were looking to see if prices could move up to this area, but we haven't seen that unfolding. Aussie's kind of come down, meandered around, but we could be seeing this double bottom here and then a move higher. So that kind of would line up a little bit with dollar weakness, and also with the euro as well. We haven't seen this sort of price action, really unfolding, in euro, to the down. We did see a move to the downside, and it kind of held around this 1750 level, and now it's kind of moving inversely to the dollar, and so we probably likely going to see, as the dollar weakens, the euro is going to strengthen up towards the probably up until the 120 level. Look to be where it's wanting to target. And of course, if we kind of look at this trajectory here, it would be a nice sort of place for it to kind of pause and then determine if we're going to continue higher, or if we're going to have a continued, if we're going to see it turn around and come back down to break this, these lows here that we kind of saw, very complex type of correction here unfolding, right? And so again, if we just come over here now to the pound, we see the pound is gaining quite a bit of strength here. It broke that downtrend line. So no longer was it able to kind of retest this this area that it broke out of. And so pound is looking quite strong and continue to be strong probably up until these sorts of areas here. So that would give us more of a bias to the long side. We have these highs here that that we're kind of seeing it top out at a little bit, but it's looking like it breaks this 140 area, then it could move another 100 pips to the upside here. So that's something there to look on the pound. And just jumping to New Zealand dollar. Again, it's kind of like Aussie, and with next week coming in, with all the interest rate numbers, it's probably worth watching the New Zealand dollar to see how that leads. Kind of leads the Aussie in that sort of sense. New Zealand tends to be, kind of tends to lead, interestingly enough, what goes on with the commodity currency, especially in the Asia Pacific, right? So we're going to have this area here that we can, kind of watch for how New Zealand dollar potentially is going to move. Maybe in this sort of range here, or if it's going to break out of the 71 to the area, then that's probably something that we can look for in New Zealand dollar. So just this range here is kind of what is emerging. All right, so as you go to dollar CAD, just removing some of these old sort of lines that we've been seeing. It's kind of aligned with oil quite a bit. So if we kind of expect oil to continue getting stronger, then we've already seen this sort of break in this trend line here. Right, so it's kind of broken there, and if we get continued strength in oil, then we may start to see this this movement in CAD. If we get stronger CAD, especially with the dollar being weak, then this is something that we could kind of watch out for there. Now let's just take a look at a bit of the higher time frame to kind of see what's been transpiring, right? And let's see the other side here. Right, so overall, we still have this downward pressure, but it could be turning up here as we see the the dollar kind of start to weaken as well. So it's probably not a bad time for price to be kind of pulling back here, and around this sort of 122 level is something that we can just watch for over the coming week or so to see if we get that dollar coming down. Now let's just take a quick look at oil. Just add BTI here. And let's just get a CVE out there. So this one. Okay, so let's bring this up. I'll just park it into gold here. So as oil has been moving higher, right? Oil has been moving higher. Okay, we could even plot, do a little comparison. So it's nice to do a little bit of comparison, and let's just do a CAD USD. Let's do that. Instead of doing that, let's do the like this. That again. To do a different one, I think is what we should be doing. Why is it's confused? Okay, that's right. Now we can see the kind of that correlation a lot easier, right? So let me just move this here. All right. So, and if we just make this a percent, let's also make this a percent, then okay. So let's kind of see how the Canadian dollar has actually been moving in lockstep until maybe just a bit more recent. You know, how the Canadian dollar has kind of led the movement in oil, which is a lot interesting, right? So if we kind of see, you know, how Canadian kind of rolled over at this point and probably exceeded the movement in price here. You know, we kind of almost just bottomed just a little earlier, right, before oil did. So it's a day earlier, right? And then you know, Canadians start to head up now as oil is head up. So it's kind of interesting, something that we can kind of take note of for the future, that you know, which kind of makes sense, right? That people will want to start to buy Canadian dollars if they have some, you know, expectation that oil is gonna go back up, you know. So it, you know, it's not always going to be the case, but just something definitely to note, that if we do start to see Canadian dollar peak as it did here, maybe that could be an indication of, you know, potential for oil to fall, which came a little bit earlier, right? So that came on July, so it was about a month. So as oil kept on going higher, you know, Canadian dollar went lower. So for a whole month, and even further, right before it bottomed. So of course, you know, oil is not the only thing that's going to affect the Canadian dollar, but it looks like it is quite a big component. So another way, I guess, of also looking at this is maybe in anticipation of oil moving higher. You know, you probably would expect, you know, maybe a bottoming of the currency before you see an uptick in oil. So kind of look at these lows here. That seems to be a little bit of the case, right? That low occurs before oil moves higher. There's a little bit inverse here at this point. Let's see another point here. Let's see, it's the bottom just before oil moves up. So it's just interesting to note. It's just another piece of information that we want to just take note of, right? And that's kind of one thing that we can just look into, right? Once oil Canadian dollar bottoms, you know, after that point, you know, maybe a day or two after, will we see some sort of rise in oil prices? So there seems to be a little bit of a potential overlap there or indication that could be helpful as we look at this sort of correlation between the two. Now, of course, this is not always the case. Oil came down here, but the dollar kind of strengthened. But still, it's probably a good thing that we want to note. Okay. Now, let's just keep on going then. Let's take a look at dollar Swiss. Going to now move this this one here. Let's just move that back to the regular scale. And as we can see with dollar Swiss, you know, strengthening now as we kind of see the dollar being weaker. So likely, you know, we can watch this area, you know, down here for prices to head towards, to kind of gravitate towards. Of course, we have this high here, which is now in the way of dollar kind of continuing higher, right? And so maybe in fact we've got this area here. We can just watch. So from a daily perspective, no clear move to the upside. This move here is still maybe a little bit corrective, but I think we'll just watch for this move here before it heads back up. Right, so that's the Swiss, and dollar yen probably a little similar in a way, but now I've got this new high set up here. And I guess price is ready to sort of maybe roll over a little bit further. Like it's all holding this area. So these are the new lows and the new highs that we need to see prices make some sort of decision about whether it wants to break. So if prices want to break in the yen down to this side, then that's the low that needs to get taken out. Put that here. And then if we're going to get any sort of continuation, right, to the upside, and we're going to have that that high at 111 kind of break if we're going to see any movement to the upside. And if we go to dollar Sing now, so there's more reflection of the dollar being pretty strong. So we had a nice little peak here that we haven't seen for a while. So if you are holding Singapore dollars, very good time to hedge. Right? So if you want to hedge your position, or your dollar position, then yeah, you can kind of go short the dollar, long Singapore, and see how prices move on the dollar side. Right, as we kind of see dollar weaken, maybe back down to here, and we'll see if we get any movements back to the upside or not. Okay. All right, so that's kind of the majors, and looking at oil and gold and equities. Let's just take a look at the yen pairs now. And what we'll do is we'll just go through these, and then we'll finish up with these yen pairs. So we had this emerging sideways move, and we saw these lows break at the bottom here. So potentially what we could find is, unless we get some sort of stronger move to the upside uh, in the Aussie, right? Kind of push uh, to push prices back up. But then that's where the yen could either keep things moving sideways, or if yen gets stronger, then we'll probably see some sort of move, right, to the downside in the yen, in the yen pairs, and same with New Zealand. It'd be somewhat similar, and just visually just give a quick view of things, right? Just clearing some of these old charts here. The yen has been strong. It's just outside the Swiss, right? In this case, the Swiss has been stronger than the yen, and therefore we see more of a move to the upside. And euro has been also a little bit more resilient, right? And then pound yen, it's kind of moving some of these old charts here. It's kind of been the European currencies outside of the euro have been a little stronger than the yen there. So just a quick sort of scan of the yen pairs, we can see that the yen has been actually stronger against the commodity, at least Aussie, New Zealand, and to a certain extent the Canadian, right? Versus the European currencies have tend to be a little bit, stronger against the yen. So where are we going to see things move? Maybe still to the downside for the Aussie yen, right? Still to the downside for New Zealand yen. So just put that here. Let's make that red. Canadian yen also still looking weak, so still want to take this to the downside. Swiss, seeing a little bit of strength, so it's kind of held around this area here. Let's just take it here to that low. It's high here, so we're not really going to be interested in the Swiss yen really, except to the long side. But just up into that where just over 122 sort of level there. And then of course euro yen has some weakness there, so probably still take that to the downside. And then pound yen on this side of things here. So still starting to kind of break up a little bit, held these lows. And we've got this high, kind of like what we're seeing in the Swiss yen there. Right, so we still have these highs here. Kind of came into this low area here. All that. Swiss. Kind of got that already. You just look at these lows that seem to be getting tested here. All right. New Zealand. Let's take this up here. It's down here. It kind of frames our view of the world now. So that's the prior high that we need to clear. We're going to get any higher. This low area down here. So all of these areas just now frame our perspective of the yen pairs, and then we just need to take our positions and trades accordingly. Now these are all daily time frames I'm using here. That just gives us that bigger picture view, can avoid some of the noise, and also can be a little bit more strategic in how we place our trades. And of course, if you're using audio UFOs, that's also another quicker way to identify some of those areas where you want to be selling, where you want to be buying, right? Where there's that support, where there's that resistance. And of course, we have auto climate down the bottom here, where it gives us also that overall market trend for what is red for a bearish bias and then blue for a bullish bias. Right. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to cover today in our session. Again, for those of you who are on FX Street and watching the recordings, feel free to contact me at andrew@tradewithufos.com. And if you have using our apps, Audio Climate or Audio UFOs, and you have any questions about those, to specific technology, you can always talk to support@tradewithufos.com. Send an email there with any questions that you have on the technology, and they will help you with that. Okay, so that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you for joining me at Trade with UFOs and at FX Street. And with that, I wish you a very good rest of the week and a good weekend ahead. All right, take care, everybody.